Hey everyone, it's B007 back for another 10-minute movie review, and today I'm talking to you about Wicked Part 1. Oh yes, Part 1 of a two-part movie about a musical, and Part 1 is already 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It's the big release of the week, and I came to it cold. I have not seen the musical, I'd never heard any of the songs, and was completely unspoiled as to plot. So here is what I discovered. This movie is Act One of a two-act musical, and it serves as a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. It begins, as the film does, with the death of the Wicked Witch of the West, as announced by Glinda the Good Witch, and then takes us back to their teenage friendship at the rather unfortunately named Shiz University. We learn that the Wicked Witch was actually a thoughtful, earnest, sensitive girl called Elphaba, who had been spurned by society because of her green skin and her frighteningly uncontrollable actual magic powers, magic being rather rare in Oz outside of the wizard. She dreams of meeting the Wizard of Oz so that he can grant her wish. And as much as she puts on airs and she's defensive and people think she doesn't care about what people think of her, as the movie opens, her wish is to have skin that is normal coloured. And it's testament to Glinda, who will become the Good Witch, that she realizes this. As superficial as Glinda is, as mean girl, as just obsessed with hair and clothes and the right boy, she sees through Elphaba's tough exterior and realizes that, of course, she's sensitive and she cares what people think, just like everyone else does. So they start off hating each other and they're roommates, but thanks to a mix up, the two teenagers soon become best friends. Glinda begins to discover her conscience. She realizes she doesn't enjoy being a mean girl to Elphaba. There's more to her than that. And in turn, I think Elphaba discovers a bit of self confidence because Glinda does give her friendship and tells her that she's beautiful and it's meaningful to her. There's also a side plot going on in this film whereby we're living in a kind of BoJack Horseman world where animals and humans live side by side and animals can speak and are fully participatory in that world. But we realize that they're being persecuted and driven off campus and out of society. And it's interesting that there is a handsome, dashing, apparently superficial prince called Fiyero. And of course, he believes that he's perfect for Glinda and that they're perfect for each other. But Elphaba's principled stance against this persecution of the animals also awakens Fiero's conscience. And he realizes maybe there's something worth fighting for that's more than just being the most handsome, most devilish man on campus. The film, this part one, ends with the two girls finally arriving in the Emerald City to meet the wizard. Of course, we all know what's going to happen and who the wizard really is, but it is fascinating to see how we get the creation of the flying monkeys and the choices that both Elphaba and Galinda have to make in that moment. So I suppose the first thing to say is that I really enjoyed the film overall. I did not find that the running time lagged. But there are negatives. There's a reason why this isn't a 5-star review. So let's start there. First of all, the music is not to my taste. For me, the vast majority of it is derivative, mediocre, and eminently skippable. The exceptions are the two songs Popular, sung by Ariana Grande, and Defying Gravity, sung by Cynthia Erivo. They're both really strong and beautifully photographed and choreographed, but that's thin gruel for a 2 hour, 40-minute running time. My second problem with the film is that the themes of the musical are really obvious, ham fisted in their execution, and frankly trite. I feel that I've seen a bazillion movies about how the uniquely talented but superficially different people are excluded and othered and mocked, only to use their power for vengeance. I mean, it's basically the plot of Carrie, it's the plot of X-Men. I feel this has been done a number of times. And oh, the delicious irony of a film so very inclusive that refuses to cast even one little person as a munchkin. Third, the plot is really obvious. There are a couple of plot twists in the overall musical. I guessed both of them, and subsequently, after the film, Googled to prove I was right, and I was. I'm not going to say any more in case you haven't seen it, but it just goes to show how, in this film, it really is not a case that you have to be Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot to figure out what's coming next. But as I said, despite these flaws, and these are big flaws, right, for a movie musical that the music is basically mediocre is a big flaw, there is a lot to love. And on the whole, I really did enjoy watching the film. The production and costume design are exceptionally good. I loved the steampunk aesthetic of the world. The costumes are just so inventive and beautiful. It's really worth seeing on a big screen. Some of the director John M. Chu's ways of visualizing and framing the big set pieces are stunning. And then, of course, the casting. Ariana Grande, who I've long admired as an amazing vocalist and mimic, is just hilarious as Glinda. She gives it everything. It's such a wonderful performance, but I think also technically very accomplished. It's interesting when we meet her at the start as the Good Witch Glinda in full sort of contemporary propaganda style, that the way she uses her voice is very similar to those classic Disney films like Snow White and Cinderella, where you have that narrator singing a beautifully romantic song, full soprano with lots of tremolo. It's almost an exact mimicry of that. And yet, in the film, when she sings in duet with Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo, she modifies her voice and her vocal tonality so that when they sing together, it's perfectly blended and harmonious. So she kind of modifies her voice to fit more with Cynthia Erivo's, and I think that's incredibly clever and technically superb. So Ariana Grande, standout hilarious, just carries you on her energy through this film. Cynthia Erivo, you may remember from the film Harriet, where she played Harriet Tubman, but also is a star of Broadway, apparently. She's an Oscar shy of an EGOT. Um, she is just heartbreaking as Elphaba. I think the scenes where she cries, where she's emotional, because normally she's so defensive and holding everything in and trying to be so tough. So the scenes where you see her just break down and the tears come to her eyes are absolutely heartbreaking and really well done. And as I said, with the scenes where Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo sing together, partly because of Ariana Grande sort of melding in with Erivo's style, it's just joyously well done. I think from watching bits of the press tour, the two actresses evidently really fell in love with each other during filming these films, and that really comes across on screen. There's a moment kind of at the center of this film where they share a very emotional moment on the dance floor of a nightclub, and it absolutely broke me. It brings tears to your eyes, or it did to me anyway. So I think if there are flaws with this film, and there are flaws with this film, the reason why you're carried away with it is because of these two actresses. I think they deserve all the praise. I'm not sure, as some say, that Cynthia Erivo deserves an Oscar. I think that's more wishing the EGOT into existence. But they're definitely worth your while. They're definitely both accomplished as musicians and also as actresses. So that's my review of Wicked Part 1. It is rated PG and has a running time of 160 minutes and is currently on global release. If you agree or disagree with my take, please feel free to leave a comment on the YouTube channel or on the blog at bina007.com. Thank you for listening.